Hello, we have Kiera here from Little Things Events. Hi, Kiera.
Hi.
There we go. All right. Sam, what inspired you to become a wedding planner?
It's an interesting question, actually. I've got a bit of a background in events, so I've pretty much always worked in the events sphere. And I moved into weddings about 4 years ago now, so 2020, just prior to COVID. And for me, it was really the heart of it, essentially. So obviously having the events background, I love organising events. Like I've always loved putting things together and putting things together in a way that, you know, flows for guests and makes people happy and makes people have a great time. And I guess when I discovered weddings, for me, that was just a no-brainer. You know, my KPI is people having fun and creating a memorable experience. And for me, that's just the best thing in the world. So yeah, that's kind of my why.
Okay. How many people in your business?
So it's me full time, and then I have Talia, who you both know, who works with me fairly full time and on pretty much all of our events. And then we have a handful of contractors as well that do weekends and setups with us. But it's predominantly two of us for most of the planning. So small but mighty, I like to call us.
That's good. Now we're getting more the juicy ones. What's the
Okay.
What's the most unique wedding theme you've ever worked on?
Oh, okay. I worked on this one. It was actually September last year. So it was one of our first weddings of the 2023-24 season. And it was themed around the couple's favorite video game. Yeah, so it was a video game called The Elden Ring.
Right.
So they really, really personalised the wedding quite a lot. You know, the entry to the ceremony, we had a fight scene. Like there was props. We had like a full blocking session to get all of the, you know, angles right. The music was on brand. We created like a portal for guests to come through. We had hanging drapes and, you know, moody black candles. And like it was just really beautiful to kind of bring together. So the room was all lit up blue. It was upstairs at the Guildford Hotel. So you know how that room already has the, you know, exposed brick and that kind of breakaway. It worked so nicely up there. So we had it kind of lit up moody blue and it was all blues and whites and kind of, you know, clouds and mystical. So that's probably the most unique design we've ever brought to life because we dove quite deep on it, and still one of my favorites to kind of work on because it was just so different. Yeah.
Wow. How long was the preparation, the setups and everything?
In terms of the planning or on the day?
On the day.
On the day, so we were, because the way the Guildford Hotel works, you do the ceremony and the reception in the same room. So we were in there for about 2 hours initially, setting up the ceremony, getting all the florals, but then also getting a lot of the stuff kind of delivered in the background. But then ceremony ended and we had about an hour and a half to flip the whole room. Dang. So we had to get all the ceremony out,
not long enough.
Tables and chairs in, tablecloths on, you know, tableware on, napkins, everything. So yeah, pre-wedding, we'd done a lot of prep in having everything folded, stacked, organized, packed so that we could just flip it like that. But yeah, in an ideal world, longer than that, because we got it done, but it was, you know, it was a larger team and we were like moving quickly all the way through. Like the photographer was following me as I was lighting candles, trying to take photos of everything. Before the guests came in. So yeah, ideally longer than that. But yeah, that's how long we had on that one.
Okay.
Would you say it was stressful?
The flip was, short turnaround flips are always a little bit stressful, and you know we've done a lot of them, like because there are a lot of the function rooms that either give you quite late access because they do lunch events and they give you a shorter bump in, or like this where it's all in the same spot. So like we're a well-oiled machine and we know how to manage it. But there's always, you are moving fast, and there is that, you know, your heart's pumping,
It's
and
like-
you just
yeah.
So, but we've got lots of little tips and tricks that we kind of do in the background to make sure that when we are doing a fast flip, that it just flows.
Yeah.
So, you know, just basic stuff like pre-folding all the napkins, having all of the place cards in the correct order, unboxing cutlery, unpackaging candles so that we're not kind of wasting time taking packaging off things. It's just kind of there to go. So yeah, stressful but fun. I love it. The adrenaline. We're all hooked on the adrenaline.
Yeah.
Every event wedding planner, we're hooked on adrenaline. That's what keeps us going.
Lots of coffees.
Lots of coffee. Yeah. Coffee, love, and adrenaline is my diet.
Yeah. All right. So if you could plan a wedding anywhere in the world, where would it be?
As much as I'd love to have a really, really cool and unique answer, I'm gonna go for the standard Europe. I'd love to do a wedding in, you know, Tuscany or you know, on the cliffs of Croatia or, you know, somewhere in Greece. Like there's so many locations in Europe that I would love to do weddings in. So yeah, I don't know, maybe in a few years' time we might have a international division. If anyone wants an international wedding planned, I'm open to it and accepting bookings.
Get in touch, guys.
That'd be the dream.
Get in touch now.
That's right. What's your favorite part of the wedding planning process?
I've got a few. Can I have more than one, or do I have to?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
One of my favorites is always the initial meeting. So we always do with all of our planning and styling couples that initial blue sky meeting. So that's where we have, you know, they've sent us a handful of Pinterest images. You know, we might have a venue booked or we might have a venue in mind. But it's where we get like really kind of dreamy about it all. Like, you know, do you like this? What about this? Why don't we try this? What about that? And we can kind of, you know, spitball and throw ideas around. And that's always one of my favorite meetings because it's the really kind of big picture. So that's one of my favorites. And then my other favorite moment is probably seeing the whole design come together on the day.
Oh yeah.
So that for me is, you know, when you have that moment at the end and you can step back and you look at the room and it looks like what it looked like in your head or on the, you know, in your design board. That's just a very satisfying moment.
Yeah, for sure.
To be able to kind of see it come to life. So I think, yeah, probably the very, very start and the very, very end are always my favorite parts of the planning process. And then, yeah, I think I also had, you know, favorite parts on the wedding day as well. Always, you know, I always love seeing them come back down the aisle after they've gotten married. Everyone always says it's when they go down. For me, it's when they come back, and it's just that sheer joy. Like they're always my favorite photos as well, where everybody's like, yeah, and there's petals
Confettis,
and the bouquet is in the air and everybody's cheering. That's always my favorite moment, ceremony wise. Like that for me is just like okay, yeah.
Like my job is done.
Well, not done, but it's
done.
it's the first part of the job that's done,
okay.
you know? Like that's the point where I'm like, okay, we're married, because the rest of it is just the fun side of it, right?
Yeah,
like
for sure. Yeah.
the ceremony is the real kind of, you know, formal part, but that for me is just seeing that joy on their faces is like, that's where it's all really, really, really worth it. So, yeah. So sorry, I picked too many.
No, it's okay.
All good.
I was going to say the packing time.
Pardon?
The favorite part of the wedding.
Sorry?
The pack up time.
Oh, never my favorite part. I have stood in many loading docks, almost in tears, trying to fit boxes in my car, going, I don't want to do a second load. Or trying to remember how things go back in boxes.
Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah.
We always have a joke that, because at the start, you know, when you're packing for the wedding, everything you're packing so carefully, you know, you know, everything's precious and you don't want to break anything and everything's, you know, perfectly in order, so you know where you're unpacking. And like particularly if it's a midnight back down at the end of the, sometimes you're just leaning on the edge of the car, I don't care if it breaks. So yeah, there's, you know, pack down,
okay.
never my favorite. Never.
Like for us, it's the home time.
Yeah.
By the end of the night, it's like, yay, home time.
Yeah, like we're out.
All day, man.
Yeah. Although I always laugh when I'm leaving weddings, because I feel like at the wedding is when we almost pass the baton over to you guys. Like, because we work on it for, you know, 12, 18 months beforehand.
Yeah.
But in essence, when we drive off the lot at a wedding, we're pretty much done. Like there's a couple of bits and pieces of follow up in terms of like invoicing and like stock checks and stuff. But when we're driving off site at a wedding, we're pretty much done. Whereas you guys,
To
you're
go
just
back on it.
starting. You know, you've done like the 15% of your job, which is capturing it, and then you have to do all of the rest of it. So I always feel like on the wedding day, it's like I'm giving you a present, and then I'm like, all right, now you guys go make it look nice. I've done this bit. You make the rest of it look nice.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, the difficult part is, let's say if they don't have any wedding planner booked in, right?
Yeah.
And they expect something looks nice on a ceremony and reception. That's hard for us.
Yeah.
Like, how can we present something if the ceremony spot and the reception is not looking good? Or as
Yeah.
nice? That's really hard.
Yeah.
Like, they expect us to create a miracle. Like, there we go, create a nice photos for us of videos.
Yeah.
Or they send you like Pinterest, like inspos.
Yeah, sometimes the inspo photos is ridiculous. Like,
Way off.
Way
Yeah.
off. And it's not even in Australia, not even Perth.
Yeah, and you're like, well, I can't capture what's not there. You know, I can't edit that in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's
It's
tricky.
tricky. It's really
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just my rant of the day. So
Yeah. Oh well, when
There's more to
when
come.
we're there, we
There's
always
more to
make
come.
sure you got something nice to capture when we're there.
yeah. Can you share a funny or memorable moment from a wedding you've planned?
Yes, so many. I feel like every wedding has its own memorable moment, but probably one that's really stuck with me from the last season was the most wonderful couple. I loved working with them so much. And she was a singer and she surprised her husband by serenading him at cocktail hour. Right. So they came back from their portraits. She got up. The musician was a friend of hers. She got up, sang a song. He was up there. He was crying. All the guests were crying. I was crying. The photographer was crying. It was just such a special moment. And yeah, it was something that she really only decided to do about a week out, and kind of said, hey, do you reckon we can make this happen? We worked with the photographer to make sure that they were back at a certain time and with the musician to make sure that he was all prepped and ready to go. And then, yeah, she stood up and said, can you come up? I've got a few words to say. And he had no idea. And then she sang this beautiful song, which was so nice. So that's probably one of the most memorable moments from the season for me. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, actually, same wedding. Funny. It was the bride was American, so there were a lot of Americans over, and she had not pre-warned them about Eagle Rock.
Oh, yeah.
So there was about 60 really confused Americans in the room when Eagle Rock came on, because there was about 100 country-based Australians who obviously did the Eagle Rock thing. And that was very funny. And she'd pre-warned me as well. She was like, FYI, I've not told them what's going to happen. So as soon as the song came on, I was just like, look for faces. And everyone was just like, what is going on?
What the hell is this?
That was funny. Same wedding.
Okay. Let's dive into the main topic,
Yes.
which is how to make weddings uniquely yours.
Yeah, which I mean, that's, those last two examples were pretty unique. So, yeah, I mean, this is something that I'm super passionate about. I think that you can design the most beautiful wedding in the world, but if it doesn't feel like the people who are getting married, then sometimes there's a disconnect in terms of whether it's going to connect with the people who are in attendance at the wedding, but also it's going to affect the way they feel on the wedding day as well. So we're always really conscious when we're planning a wedding in terms of, what things they like, what things they don't like. We really dive deep on, favorite songs, favorite movies, favorite textures, favorite colors, like what really feels like them, to make sure that what we're designing is something that they are going to love at the end of the day and that they're going to love forever as well. Because I think it's really easy to get caught up in Pinterest trends and then just try and ram 13 Pinterest trends into a wedding and then get there and be like, I don't know if I like bows. So, just something that I'm quite passionate about, and we work very closely with our couples on.
When you do the initial meeting, do they actually have preferences? Like, I want this theme,
Yeah, It differs by couple, to be honest. We always send it. We've got a design questionnaire that we send to all of our couples that just asks. It's like 12 questions, so we've kept it really simple.
Only 12?
Only 12. So we don't like to overload them, but we also don't want them to try and start dictating. We want this, we want that. You know, it gives us enough creative freedom to then use that as a bit of a jumping off point. So it's more like us understanding any textural dislikes, and like velvet's one that comes up a lot, but that's great for us to know. So we're not going to present a wedding that has velvet chairs and velvet napkins to somebody who's going to be like, I can't touch this, I hate it. Metallic preferences, and do they like gold or rose gold or brass or silver? And just kind of some simple things like that. And then we usually get them to upload 3 to 5 images. So we keep it really simple on the image front as well. And then in the meeting, we go deeper. So that just means that we can do a bit of pre-work. We pull images together, we bring them into the meeting. And then that first meeting is that real kind of, brainstorming session where like, here's some things that we've interpreted from what you've told us. What do you think? And then that's when they're, I'm not sure I like that, or I really like that, or, oh, actually I saw this other image. And then this is where we can kind of start to get their likes and dislikes. But I find it's easier to do it in person than it is for them to fill out like a 30-question questionnaire, because then people get quite stuck on, like, if they've told you that they want a certain arbor, if you don't deliver that in the design, then they're like, but I said I really wanted a square arbor. Whereas if we've kind of, spitballed it around, we can show different options. And they're like, well, actually, maybe I prefer some floor pieces, or like maybe I want this from the tree, or maybe I want this here. So yes, but then some are more specific than others. So some do come in and they're quite like specific with what they're after, color-wise, vibe-wise, setup-wise. Some couples less so. Some might have kind of a general color scheme, and then they're just like, just make it look nice, and then we present back, and then we kind of take it from there. So yeah, it varies, but we kind of work with whatever their strong desires are, really.
Is it a bit difficult for you if they don't have any preferences at all?
Yes and no. Where it gets difficult is when we have conflicting images. So like if people send through 2 or 3 images and they're like complete opposites, like one of them is like a very white gloss, white, high, shiny wedding. And then the other image they send us is like wood tables, rattan chairs, rustic style, because then that's when we kind of have to be like, well, which elements of which do you like, So it gets difficult more so when I think there's conflicting likes and dislikes, or people haven't really kind of thought it through. But not necessarily. We can always manage to get some small insight in that meeting that we can use as a jumping off point, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is kind of nice to have that little bit of creative freedom to be able to, go away and do something and then present something back that they maybe haven't thought of, or something that's not, that they haven't specifically asked for, but then often we present it back and people are like, oh, I hadn't thought of that, but that's a really cool way of doing it. Or like, that's interesting, I really like it. So, so yes and no.
Have you ever had like you felt like you've done your job to 100% and the client don't like it?
Not on the day.
Oh.
Never on the day, because we're really specific with,
Mm-hmm.
and the design mock-ups that we do are very detailed, so they know exactly what's on the table. But absolutely, we've done full design workups and then they've been not super sure on it, and we've gone away and really redone the whole thing.
Wow.
In that design stage, which is fine because that's what the design stage is for,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's, we always take that feedback on board. We always have, obviously you do get attached to certain things, and you do get attached, and it's hard not to, but I've been working in events long enough to know that you can't get attached to things, because sometimes the thing that you think is the most important thing with the design, they might go like, I actually don't like that. And then you have to take it away, and you have to be able to reset and then look at it with that fresh lens of like, all right, well, with that taken out, what are we now doing with the rest of the table? How are we still delivering a design that's going to make them happy? So yeah, sometimes it's a slam dunk. You present the design. Sometimes it's a 30-minute meeting. You present the design and the budget and they go, I love it. It's amazing. It's perfect. Signed off. It's done. Sometimes it's like 1 or 2 tweaks, or like, I'm not sure about the stationery color, or I don't, I think I might like this more or that more. Sometimes we give options, but it's only really been like once or twice where it's been like, oh, I don't really like it. We're going to have to start again. And that's fine. That's our job. That's the process. And we go back to the drawing board. And every time that's happened, and it hasn't happened for a while, we've used it as a chance to refine our systems. What questions could we have asked better up front to have negated that? Or what questions can I add into the design questionnaire to make sure that we're getting the info that we need so that doesn't happen? But never on the day. Yeah. So everyone's always stoked on the day because they have full clarity on it. I think where people might run the risk of getting disappointed is if people don't have clarity or understanding, or if you're relying on somebody's imagination, essentially, like if you're describing something to them. Not everyone pictures things the same way, and not everybody can picture the tables. So that's why we're quite in depth with, we do the full bridal table mock-up and the table mock-ups of, the exact candles and placements of flowers and everything, so that they can really see it. And then on the day, and I really should do more reels of, design to real day, because we've got, the physical, the mock-up, and then it's exactly on the day what it kind of looks like. So I really should do more of those reels. That's actually very good. I've just come up with a great social media idea. There you go. So yeah.
Can you run us through how the timeline works? Because I know every couple plan weddings differently, I guess.
Yeah.
Some weddings would book you, say, 3 months in advance, or some of them are like 15 months.
Yeah.
How does that work? Do you have enough time to plan everything?
Yeah. So look, if people are hiring us for like a full service, like design everything start to end, the shortest time frame that we will take it on is 4 months leading up to the wedding.
No less than that.
Pardon?
Not less than that.
Not if it's full service. We'll take it shorter if it is a micro wedding. So we've done, it's like a 30-person wedding, smaller setup, or if it's like a surprise wedding or like birthday parties, anything else we will kind of take in that time period for sure.
Yep.
Coordinations, if they've planned it and they just need the coordinator on the day, we will take in that time period. But if someone's coming and they're like, yo, we've booked a venue and we don't have anything else and it's 3 months to go, we've taken those bookings before, and it's immensely hard to pull it all together, just availabilities, finding the right vendors, putting the design together, and actually getting the job done. It's really, really hard. And we've had a couple of not great experiences doing it, just in terms of, it's just been a hell of a lot of work, and then it tends to eclipse some of the other work that we need to be doing on other weddings that have been proactive and booked us further in advance. So it's from a timeline point of view, but it's also so that we're not, having to prioritize a shorter run wedding over things that we need to be doing on longer term weddings. So 4-ish months is about the latest we'll take, like a full service, like plan my wedding top to bottom. Yeah. Because it's,
That's hectic.
Yeah, like we did the, I obviously I'm a bit of a data nerd, so I always go back and we look through, how many emails, how many hours, how much time we've spent planning each wedding. And most on average for full service weddings, it's about 160 hours. So you compress that into 3 months. It's like, that's just a full-time job for one, for that whole time to do that wedding. So whereas, you spread that out over, ideally our ideal time frame is 10 to 18 months. It spreads better. The meetings flow, the timelines work. We have our KPIs along the way, and it just means that we're able to service it and get the job done. So that's time frames. But in terms of, I guess, how the planning process works, we start with that big blue sky meeting. We then go away. We usually set our second meeting about 4 to 5 weeks later.
Okay.
And then we do all of this background work. So a good chunk of the hours go into that first 4 to 5 weeks for us. And that's when we're, you know, hitting you guys up. Are you available on this date? And we're kind of slowly starting to put the pieces together on like budgets and design and all of the stuff.
Yeah.
We then present it back to them. So we're kind of presenting like a really built out budget, built out concept, you know, supplier options, things to review. We're really presenting that back, and then we're starting to get things booked in from there. So when it's above 12 months, we usually separate the upfront budget and suppliers from the design side of things. So we usually do the initial presentation is the budget breakdown, and then it's all the single date suppliers. And that's the focus. It's photographer, videographer, celebrant, you know, caterer if needed, bar staff if needed, celebrant, all of that. And then once that's all locked in, then we do the design brief, and then we do the design presentation. If it's under 12 months, we usually do that all together just because of timeframes to get it kind of done. But if it's over 12 months, which is our preference, it just means that it's less stressful, and not just for it's
everyone,
less stressful for the couple because you're not coming in and we're going, you know, here's 70 grand worth of bills and you need to make these 8 decisions this week. Yeah. It means that we're, you know, able to kind of stage it out and step them through it and really walk side by side. So yeah, 12 to 18 months is the dream, ideally.
Yeah. And I guess the options that they have as well for vendors and
always, you know,
it's very limited. If they
totally, like we're working on a January 2026 wedding at the moment, and every single vendor we've touched base with has been available. So they're literally getting the pick of, and we're able to be like, here's all of these options that suit what you're after, and they're able to pretty much cherry pick. Where
We're still available.
Whereas, like, you go short notice, and I'm sending out. You know, I've got one that's just booked in for December this year. And it's a hustle. It's you know, you're filtering through who's available for certain roles to kind of get them in there. Yeah. So yeah, it's the longer the term, pick of the bunch, and often it works out a lot more budget friendly because you're able to get your dream for the right price. You know, whereas otherwise you're kind of having to sometimes make a price versus you know dream decision. Yeah. And the longer term, you've got longer time to pay it off. You can save, you can budget. Like it makes it a lot easier to work in that like 12 plus month realm for sure.
Would you say your main client is more like a cultural wedding or Western weddings?
A pretty solid mix, to be honest.
Mixed,
and I think that's, you know, a pretty solid mix, I would say. Probably slightly skewed towards Western weddings, probably more like 65% Western weddings, but we've done quite a few, specifically Indian Hindu weddings, we've done quite a lot of now, which is great. We've done a lot of Chinese weddings, like the last one we did. So we've done a lot of cultural weddings as well, which I love. I love learning about all of the different cultures and practices. And I remember the first wedding I was at with a Yam Seng, and I was like, what is this? What's happening? Why is everyone yelling? But I love it. They're now my favorite part. The first time you're like, why is that table yelling?
That's fun. I'm looking forward to that at the reception, actually.
Yeah.
I have a funny one. Did a Yam Seng at the reception years ago now. The groom was actually drunk because of that.
Yeah. Okay, I imagine you could, depending on how many tables, like
A lot of tables.
I had one couple and they were like, you need to bring me some water to do yums because it was like 230 guests, so there was 26 tables I think all up. So they had to do it 26 times. So she was just like, you need to fetch me some water. And again, that's part of my job on the day is like sometimes it's really high level. Sometimes I'm fetching water so that people don't get drunk doing Yam Seng. It's a varied job.
For the first 5 tables, like, Yam Seng, and then the last...
It's like
a few is like,
okay. And again. Yes.
What are some of most memorable, unique wedding ideas you've seen in your career as a wedding planner?
Oh, so many. And I think again, I always highly recommend that couples go down this personalization route because it just makes it so special. Another one of my favorites recently, the couple were really big on, they were really big Lord of the Rings fans. So we had through all of the stationery was just different Lord of the Rings quotes. So, you know, the welcome sign had no admittance except on party business and like just little touches like that. And their friends and family, obviously, you know, they're also into Lord of the Rings. They knew they were. So it just made them feel more connected. They're turning up at the reception. The couple aren't there yet, but they've seen the sign and everyone's going, oh, that's cute. You know, it just emanates them throughout, which I think makes it really special. You know, and then the champagne toppers, the little, you know, floating love quotes on top. The sip and solves are always really lovely, where you do, it's like a big giant crossword that people can do during cocktail hour. You have certain questions that you know only certain pockets of friends will know, and then they can slowly kind of do the crossword together. We had one that did because I had a whole bunch of kids coming. It was a really big family wedding. They did a specific colouring in book, but they'd gotten a friend who was an illustrator to do like illustrate them. So the kids were colouring in like them getting married and like different scenes from the wedding. So like they'd spent so much time doing this. And it was just a really special little thing for everyone. So yeah, like stuff like that is always just, it's lovely. It's just that extra touch where people go like, huh, that's nice. Had another bride who wrote love letters to every single guest. So we had a love letter wall. So we've got a beautiful white wall, and we got 6 different colours of envelope. The wedding was really multicolored, so it was, you know, disco balls and really bright pops of colour. And we attached all of the envelopes in a specific pattern, so we mapped it all out with like the number of envelopes and the colours, and mapped it out across. And then we had a very cute decal. It was like a love letter from me to you. So all the guests as they came through were picking up letters, you know, off the wall and then reading, and she'd handwritten them all. Like her and her husband had sat there, and it was not a small wedding. It was like 140 people.
Wow.
And they had handwritten. So everyone's getting these love letters of like, you know, my favourite memory of you is this, and thank you so much for being here, and this is why you were on the invite list, and just so special. Amazing. Wow. So yeah, little things like that are things that we can help facilitate. So, you know, we did the wall, we did the decal, we worked with her on the colour scheme and the envelope. So like, I can't write those letters for you, you know, like I could try, it'd be weird. But things like that are always the stuff that, you know, and particularly when you have a wedding planner, you have a little bit more time to do those things because you've got someone worrying about the rest of it. You're not bogged down in like the timelines and the who's going to cater for it and who's going to do this. You can just be like, here's kind of a cool idea that I came up with. We can help facilitate and book all of the stuff. And then she, you know, that was just 6-7 week project, and they'd do 4 or 5 letters each a night, and that's what they did, and we got it done. So yeah, I think that's also just an added plug for having a wedding planner, is that you get a little bit of extra time back in there to do those little personal things. And yeah, I think that makes it quite special. We did another one. They didn't end up going ahead in the end. The napkins, they got their dog illustrated. We had him on the bar in the end. So he had his own cocktail and he had a little illustration of him. But we were going to do cocktail napkins with the dog illustrated on it. The napkins were quite expensive to get them customized, and in the end they were like $2,000 on 400 or 500 napkins. Probably not worth it. So they didn't do the napkins, but we still had him illustrated on the bar, and it was just so cute. Like, it was like the drinks are on, I can't remember the name of the dog, but the drinks are on dog's name. And then they had the little picture. So little stuff like that. It's cute. It's different. It's quirky. It makes people go like, huh. And that's the stuff that then people are going to talk about that. Because I think you can design the most beautiful, stunning wedding in the world, but if it doesn't feel like the people whose wedding it is, then sometimes it just doesn't connect in the same way. And I think that's why, you know, Pinterest is a great thing, but also sometimes not so great. It's because people sometimes get really waylaid into, I need this or I need that, or this is what's trending at the moment and I want this kind of cake or I want that, rather than this is what I like and this is what I am going to like when I look back at this wedding in 10, 15, 20 years time. So yeah, I think it's striking kind of a fine balance between what's on trend, what looks good, and also what feels like you.
With the rise of technology these days, how can couples incorporate technology in innovative ways to make their wedding more personal?
A couple of examples that we've seen quite often, obviously the QR code for people to capture photos and then upload them to the cloud. Like that's kind of a nice way. I can't remember the name of the websites. I think there's like I Spy or like, you know, there's a couple of other ones that let people, essentially it's like a shared cloud. People scan the QR code and they can upload their photos. So you can get just like a selection of like cute, quirky photos and videos from family and friends. So that's kind of a fun way to do it. But I don't know.
What about like, let's say I'm your client, right? And then have you ever clients like, they use this AI stuff like Mid-Journey. Have you heard of Mid-Journey?
No.
Mid-Journey is, literally you have to describe what you want to see on this photo.
Oh, and then
it'll
you
come
can
up.
get like the wedding design.
wedding design. Has anyone actually do that to you? Like show the
No,
photos?
we have had a play with it to say, just, you know, to kind of see what pops out.
Yeah.
And look, probably haven't spent enough time with it. It's never really done anything for me that's been like overwhelming. It is often just a little bit of like a random compilation of images. And I don't know, I don't think you can replace the personal touch when it comes to
I agree.
wedding design. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like AI is just going to take basically Pinterest and just look at trends and then mush them all together. And there's I can't remember what the Instagram is, but there's an Instagram handle that does like, that shares AI images of like AI created wedding designs.
Yes.
What I can't remember what it is. And
Can't remember
and like
the name
they're
now.
always like, you know, they're always kind of cool, but a lot of the time they're not realistic. Like, you know, did you see the one the other day that was like, you know, in the water, like the seats were in the water and the table was
looks
floating
weird.
on the water
Right.
and there was, you know, stuff on the table, and it was like, it looks cool as a painting, but like how realistic is it? And how feasible is it? Because I don't think you can really put, I don't know. Like, I think I'm not anti-AI. Like we use AI for a lot of other back end, you know, automations and things. But I think in terms of the actual design side, I think potentially eventually it'll be great for inspiration and even like mock-up development. Like if we can, you know, right now we use Canva to do all of our mock-ups. Potentially AI is something that we can use for that eventually when it kind of comes together. But even when we've tried it to do that, exactly that, and described in great detail exactly what we're thinking on the table, what it's kind of popped back has just not really been it. So yeah, at the moment, no.
Other than working, like for me and Brad, working in industry as us, doing this photography, videography, we have to be someone else.
Yeah.
You know, like for example, instead of for me working just focusing on photography, I have to be a content creator. I have to be a videographer as well.
Yeah.
And I have to be like someone else creating this content, you know,
Like marketing
stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And it's hard
stressful.
because like often I will sometimes get to the back end of the day and I'm like, I've taken like 4 photos because we've been just working.
Yeah.
And you forget to take the photos and take the video and like particularly like, you know, behind the scenes and set up stuff.
Yeah.
It's really hard to remember to do it because some build days are just so intense that you're, you know, like I'm on my phone or I'm, you know, I'm moving stuff around and you're moving so quickly that you get to the end of the day and you're like, cool, I've taken 4 photos. You're like, well, hope the photographer shares some photos with me. Because you're just like, oh, okay, cool. I did bad today at taking photos. So yeah, it is hard to have to also be a content creator and a marketing manager and
it's hard.
IT specialist and all of the other job roles that come with being a small business owner. That's a rant for another day.
Yeah, that's right. If I work with Brett, I always tell him to like, hey Brett, please make sure you get a behind the scenes shots of me when I do the work. It's like, because sometimes not every job is like all goes to plan.
Yeah.
And everything was a rush, things like that. And when it was a rush, he's gonna be in a rush as well. So it's difficult. To work. And then by the end of the night, I was like, crap. I forgot the BTS shots. I forgot this, forgot that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is. It's hard. It's hard.
There's more to come.
I know. I mean, we use a lot of technology in the background with the business running side of things. So, automations and onboardings and meeting requests and things like that. Like a lot of that is kind of automated, as you guys would be as well, with questionnaires and invoices and bits and pieces. So that helps a lot with the business back end. And like, RSVP management and websites and things like that. But in terms of on the wedding day, it's, there's not too much in terms of, like real pointy end technology beyond the basics really that I've seen.
Do you think your job as a wedding planner will become obsolete in the next 10 years?
No.
No?
I don't think you can replace the personalization of it, particularly design. I don't think you can replace the personalization of it. And planning it's such a personal job. Like it's not really something that you can just punch into a website because, it's when you're choosing your photographer, it's not like you can just be like, some people might just be like, I'll just choose a photographer and then they don't really care. But, for most people, photographer, celebrant, all of it, it's such a personal decision.
Yes.
It needs eyes on it to evaluate and interpret and, make those decisions. So I think having a wedding planner to put all of those pieces together and take what they're telling you they want and actually put that personal touch on it, I don't really see how it can be effectively digitized in a full capacity. I think there's definitely technology that's going to make our life easier and that's going to be able to take some of the like pain points away, and we're seeing that with different systems and back ends, but I don't think it'll ever completely obliterate the profession for sure. Yeah.
At one point, I was actually worried.
Yeah.
Like for me, my job as a photographer, will be gone, in the next 5-10 years.
But again, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because it's such a personal, it's such a personal thing, and I think particularly weddings more so than corporate, more so than birthday parties or milestone events. Weddings are just so people, they're the photos that people want to look the best in for for the rest of their life. So you need somebody with human eyes to turn you and pose you and shape you and do those things. It's just you just can't get that with a robot.
Yeah. I can understand with the headshot photography though.
Totally.
Yeah. That can be replaced easily.
Step and replace go for sure.
Yeah.
I think there are definitely other facets of that it could, but I can't see wedding photography. Yeah, weddings are just they're too personal. They're too personal. People just they want somebody who can feel the wedding and can bring that to life, and I think that goes from a planning point of view and a capturing it point of view.
There was this app popping up on my Facebook, Instagram feed recently. I can't remember the name of the company though, the name of the app. Basically, it's just we take photo with our phone, just randomly, with different clothing, like different angle as well, front, sides, different angle. And then this app is going to create a professional looking studio photo.
I've seen some of those. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then I think what they said was the final photo is going to be done within an hour.
Crazy.
So
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And look, it looks really, really good.
Yeah. But it's still not real, you know, and you
Yeah.
know that looking
Yeah.
at it. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have the visceral memory of, like, you know, remember an hour after we got married and we're standing in that field and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, you know, and people have stories from the their
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
photos as well. Like, you know, the bottle of Dom Perignon that got dropped on the floor, like, you know, stories like that they're like, oh, remember when that happened, or remember when someone, you know, it's a memory, and then looking
Yeah.
at the photo takes you back to that memory. And yeah, I just don't think that the, you know, like, upload your image here and we'll send you back some wedding photos. It's like, I don't remember that.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have a physical memory of it, so I don't connect to it, so I don't care. Have you guys seen any examples of, or, you know, captured any weddings where you've been like, well, that's cool, or that's different, or that's something that really stuck with you?
I
There
don't
you
think
go,
it is.
turning the tables.
I don't think it is.
Because yeah, I mean, you guys would see all kinds of different weddings, and you know, some with planners, some without, some
Yeah.
yeah.
I did a wedding last year, or I think it was last year, somewhere up north. It was in the bush, and the theme was Harry Potter kind of theme.
Yeah.
It was actually interesting one. So when I got to the entrance, there was this sign leading to the ceremony spot with the Harry Potter kind of theme
Yeah.
kind of thing. Wow, it's interesting. So yeah, follow the sign over there, and everyone was dressing in a Harry Potter kind of, you know, clothing.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
That's yeah. It
Something
sticks
like
with
that.
you.
Yeah.
But everyone there, that would have been so special to them, because that's just, it's cooler than just being like, wear a nice cocktail dress and turn up to my wedding, and then they're being like, this isn't you guys. You know? I had one couple that they were like quite like heavy metal heads, and so it was, you know, black velvet, red flowers, like it was really cool design wise, like it was all like dark, moody blacks, reds. And their first dance, they actually had choreographed the first minute and a half, and then they had their DJ literally do a record scratch and then go, come on guys, this isn't you, and then put on a heavy metal track, and they'd teed up like 10 of their closest friends to run in and like do like
so
a full
nice.
circle pit in the middle. And like the oldies were confused as hell, but everyone else, it just, you could feel everybody in the room that was their friend being like, oh, there they are, like, because the dance was like quite a formal, you know,
Yeah.
choreographed dance, and it was like, oh yeah, okay, this is very nice. And as soon as that happened, it just, you could feel that everyone was like, right, now we're back with these guys again. It's, you know, it's not for everyone, but it's if it's you,
It
you
is your
know,
wedding
dress
day.
like Harry
Yeah.
Potter. Theme your wedding after a video game. Do a heavy metal song for your first dance. Like
Yeah.
that's the stuff that makes it cool and different and, you know, fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm all about the weird. Make all of your make it all personal. Make it all personal, and it makes it just so special.
Yeah.
And I think, sorry, just
No,
what I
it's
was
okay.
saying. I think not having a personal touch on your own wedding
Yeah.
is just gonna be like just another wedding for the
Yeah.
guests as well. Like they wouldn't remember it.
Totally.
So-
Yeah. Because everyone goes to, you know, on average, like 10 to 15 weddings
Yeah.
in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And, you know, people have seen a lot of the kind of standard
Common
weddingy
stuff.
things.
Yeah.
So, you know, and it's not like you have to reinvent the wheel to go too different.
Yeah.
Like I saw a very funny Instagram reel recently of like, you know, couples jumping the shark with wedding planning. And it's like, I'm gonna turn up on a shark, and then I'm gonna do that, you know, trying to come up with these like really kooky ideas to be like different and left of center. I'm not talking about doing that, because don't do something just for the sake of like doing something different. It's the stuff where you go like, that's actually really meaningful to me. That's when it lands. Like that's, you can feel when it's something that's authentic versus when it's something that's just like doing something different for the sake of like doing
Just
something
standing
different.
out, kind of. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, people can tell. It's authenticity as well. You need it to be, you know, authentically you. And then I think that's where the magic really happens.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever had any themed weddings.
Well, you need to come to more of my weddings.
For sure. Yes, please. But I had like straight after the ceremony, I had a couple where they had shots. ready for all the guests.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just nice.
Yeah.
So something different. But
Yeah.
Chewy?
Shots.
Chewy?
Shoeies.
Shoeies, no. Never had one.
I have had a bridal party member do a shoey on entry at a wedding, which is, I did not know what was coming and was like, oh, okay, wow, cool. Now I've got to get someone to mop the floor. Great. Yeah.
Could have told me that.
Could have told me that.
Chewy on a hot day?
Oh.
It was in a ball. It was in a ballroom as well, which was like vibe-wise was weird mishmash of vibes. But no, not too hot a day, thank God. But gross.
What do you reckon some unique ways to involve guests in the ceremony or reception to make the experience more interactive?
I mean, ceremony wise, I don't think you should really I'm not. I'm going to start again. Cut.
That's right.
That was a really bad answer. I'm going to pretend that you've asked that question and then I'm going to go again. Ceremony wise, I mean, it's completely up to the couple how much they want to involve. And I know that a lot of celebrants have really great ideas for involving people and involving, key family members or pets or things like that. Again, I think the key to that is authenticity. I think it has to feel authentically them and it has to be something that is meaningful. So, like a pet bringing the rings up or, a child announcing, mummy, you may kiss daddy or whatever it is, like things like that, I think is where it really lands from a ceremony point of view with interaction. And, we often work really closely with the celebrants because they're kind of that's their domain, right? Like in terms of the actual flow of the ceremony, we really do work quite closely with the celebrants on how they want it to, how it should look and feel and be based on what the couple are after. But yeah, there's lots of great ways that we've seen. So yeah, like kids announcing, dogs bringing up rings. We've had a bird fly a ring in once, which was risky, but it worked. And we've done it, we had a beautiful couple that got married and they had 4 kids and the kids came in after the bride so she could see them walk up the aisle. Not a dry eye in the house. It was gorgeous. So I think there's lots of different ways that you can do interactivity in that regard. And cocktail hour and reception wise, it's really just making sure that guests feel connected more so than anything else. I think it's not necessarily giving them things to do or like tasks because, if you've had a long working week, sometimes you just want to sit and have a beer. I'm not a big fan of now you go over here and then you have to do this and you have to do this, but it's providing options for them, right? So, if you're outdoors, you might do a couple of lawn games or you might do like a sip and solve or, things like that. But it's also, when we're designing the timelines, we always think about not just where the bridal couple are, but it's also where the guests are at and what they're doing. Because, it's great to go off for a 2-3 hour photo session. You guys love that. Leaving the guests behind for 3 hours, not a great experience. It's looking at how to fill that gap. If there's movement from one location to another location, it's, maybe creating a little bit of space there in case people want to go back and drop cars or drop, kids off or anything like that. But we really look at like the guest experience as well as what the bridal party are doing, because I think both are equally as important on a wedding day, because no one wants to just be dumped in a field with booze for 2.5 hours. You get a bit bored. So I think that's kind of the key really in building the timeline is looking at that. And then with formalities as well, there's a really fine balance between who is required to speak, who you want to speak, but also really making sure that you're not overloading things like speeches and formalities. Like we did one wedding that had 7 speeches and it was, both set families were separated. So there was like 4 sets of parents and it was just, there was a lot, there was no one that could be removed. And it it was tough. We had to do them in 3 batches. It just felt like there was a lot of formalities, and people, you can see them. They're, you know, sitting at their seats and they're starting to do that twitch and, and you can see people start to pick up their phones. So I think it's striking a really good balance in formalities of making sure that people are engaged the whole time. They're listening to the speeches, they're engaged with whatever formality is happening, but they trust that they're not going to be left to sit there for, you know, 45 minutes to listen to somebody talk for that whole time. You know, short, punchy, keeping things moving, I think is the real key. So that people don't get bored. Get them on the dance floor, you know. Try and open the dance floor by 8:30 to 9 p.m. I find is the sweet spot to open a dance floor. 3 hours for dancing. Everybody's having a great time. People have had just enough to drink that they're keen to dance, but they're not. It's not too late. They're not like, I can't be bothered, but it's not too early where they're like, oh, a bit awkward. Just think about the guest experience as well as what the bride and groom are doing, or the bride and bride, or the groom and groom.
So you will create a timeline for the client as well?
Yes. Yeah. So we're really heavily involved in the timeline creation. So we'll work really closely with the couple on what needs to be in there. We map out everything from the very start of the day, hair and makeup timings, if there's a bridal party, coffee runs, food, breakfast, photography turn up, videography, who's turning up where, transport time for you guys to get between houses, things like that. Like, we map all of that out to make sure that everything flows. That's a big part of our role. And we usually start that run sheet as soon as we do that first meeting. So in some cases, by the time we're sending it to you at like 2-3 months out, it's existed for 12 months prior because we've just been, every meeting we pull it up and we're tinkering, we're talking to suppliers, access times, we're making sure that food service timings make sense for the caterers or the venue. We're making sure that you've got enough time to change flashes and lenses and whatever you need to do in between all of the things. So
really important. There's
lots of things that we kind of think about. But we start at the top and then, nitty gritty down. So the first cut of the run sheet is like quite big picture. And then by the end of it, I mean, you've seen our run sheets. They're, multi-page masterpieces in my opinion. Because you just need to have that level of detail so that everybody has the time and knows where they're going and everything's kind of accounted for. So, yeah, I don't know. I love a good run sheet. Love a logistic.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for future clients?
Book early. With all suppliers would be my big one. Start early. Start early, book early.
Yeah, very good.
Yep.
Not 3-4 months in.
Unless it's a micro wedding. We've done lots of kind of 20, 30, 40 people weddings in like 2-3 months, and that's doable. But yeah, if you're 100 plus and you want a big fancy wedding, 4 months is not the best time frame to be working with.
Okay. All right, guys. I'm Alvin.
I'm Brad.
I'm Kiera.
See you next time, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.